Hey lovers, welcome to Love After Loss, the place where true love never dies. I am your host, Josh, and this is my co-host, Trina.
Hello.
And today we're coming to you guys with a great relationship topic as usual. Today we are dealing with relationship check-ins, and we're going to talk about some things that can help you in that process and on why it's so important to have this as a part of your relationship, a staple in your relationship even. So stay tuned, it's going to be some great information. All right, so first thing we want to deal with is what is a relationship check-in?
So, a relationship check in is basically a time that you and your partner set aside to get the pulse of the relationship. How are things going? Any unresolved issues that there may be, use that as an opportunity to address those and on whatever frequency that you all set.
Very
Yeah.
good. So, like when you're doing a check-in, it should be something set aside and scheduled, or should it be more spontaneous, or what do we think?
I like schedule, but you can make it part of the prelude to a date night. Or if you're cooking at home, while I'm cooking or whatever, drinking wine or whatever, let's have our check-in now so the rest of the evening can be fun. Yeah.
Okay, so I get that, and I agree. I think it should be something that's definitely intentional. I think there are moments of vulnerability that you guys can choose, whichever moment feels right. It's a good moment for you guys to do it. You can schedule it, set it ahead of time, or you guys can kind of, flow with it. If you feel like you guys had a good time, you had a great evening, you didn't plan on it, but we've had a great day, great evening. You're just sitting and talking. Slip a question out there and see where it goes. If it's not reciprocate or it doesn't go well, then steer it a different way. But I think it's important to have those times intentionally.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. I agree.
So what are some questions that you would ask during a relationship check-in? Kind of, I don't know, stuff you would cover.
A question that you get asked that can cover a lot of ground is, what do I do to make you feel loved, honored, and respected? Or what things don't I do to make you feel loved, honored, and respected? That you can cover a lot
Yeah.
with those three things.
Yeah.
Just a plain old, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
How's it going? Especially in today's time, it's a lot going on.
It is.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Is
How
there-
are we?
Yeah, how are we?
Yeah.
Is there anything that I can do?
Mm-hmm.
Questions like that.
I think definitely it should encompass like the person's state of mind as well as the state of
Absolutely.
relationship. Just how you've been feeling. Have you been stressed out recently? Have you been feeling overworked, overloaded? What are some things we can do to kind of sustain health in our relationship in all different areas of facets. So many relationships have so many different things that need to be addressed too. There's no way, you don't want to limit it to anything, but how you put that thing in there, how you get it covered is definitely important, and it's up to you.
Yeah.
So
And you can use it as an opportunity to address any unresolved issues or something that has been an issue that you're working on, just to kind of see what progress has been made, if there are any changes or anything that need to take place.
I also think it's a good place to address, different systems and approaches that you put into place in your relationship. Certain things that you say, okay, we're gonna try this way or try that way, or let's do this and see how that works. If it's something that's new, that you guys have been progressively working through, working towards, it's a good time to check in and say, okay, how's this working? What's going well? What's not going so well? And is it accomplishing what we set out for it to be and what we wanted to do?
Absolutely. Yeah. And just, basically making sure that if you're being presented with something that your partner didn't necessarily like, that you don't get defensive, that you are intently listening to what they're saying, just so that you can make sure that our job is to make sure that we are good for each other. That we provide what we say that we're going to provide and give each other what we say we're going to give each other. So that's a perfect opportunity to listen and hear those things and check yourself.
Yeah.
Are there things that I need to change?
I agree. I think you could maybe possibly set check-in rules. You guys have rules in place for how you engage during relationship check-ins. Some relationships are on a more in a more volatile and hostile place. And so you guys may need to establish rules as far as not talking over each other, using I feel statements instead of being accusatory. Don't be demeaning, don't be degrading. Be able to voice the issue without attacking the person. You know, there are a lot of things that you need to try to consider when you're scheduling this type of communication to make sure. So make up some rules for you guys of things you're not going to do, things you are going to allow to help that engagement be more successful, more effective, and go more smoothly. It'll be a horrible thing to have date night and then y'all start having conversations about relationship and you do it so horribly till there is no date night after, you know, that kind of thing. So I think that's a good practice.
Yeah. And it's a good opportunity to practice your listening skills when you repeat what you heard, just to make sure that you understood what that person is trying to say, and then ask follow-up questions if you don't understand. If, you know, like, I just don't get that, and allow that person the chance to explain, and then sum it up. And if you possibly can, leave it on a good note. Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah.
You always work towards some kind of positive end,
Yes.
positive resolve, positive finish.
Even if all of the issues aren't resolved.
Yeah, even if everything's not resolved, you know, still walk away feeling like, okay, but we did something tonight and we shared with each other, and this is going to help us grow, and it's going to help us work towards the goals that we have in place.
Absolutely.
So I think it's important to have, even if it's a tough conversation. I think you should always be aware of the effects of what you want to discuss and how deep you go. You know, every check-in doesn't have to be the hardest topic or the deepest thing. One thing you want to do is start places where you guys have you communicate better. It's not as sensitive a subject, it's not as hard a topic to discuss, and build up the consistency of doing this with those small things, and then progressively work towards some harder, tougher things, you know. But I think that every time you guys have that conversation, it shouldn't be super duper heavy, but there will be times where it has to be that.
Yeah.
So balancing that out, timing on that as well is important. But it's definitely something that's needful and, you know, needs to be done in this first.
What do you think about setting a time limit for the check-in?
I absolutely think that time limits are helpful for some people. I think even in the communication itself, you can have a time limit on the whole, and then you can also have time limits on sharing. You know, one person gets 2 minutes or 3 minutes to say what they need to say about a thing. Another person gets 2 or 3 minutes to respond to that thing, and maybe a rebuttal time, and then a final closing statements, arguments about it, whatever the case may be. And at least you've heard each other. You know, if you don't come to resolve, at least you've heard each other. And if you voice your heart enough, you know, eventually I think your partner, if they really care for you and love you, they'll start to hear from your heart, and they'll start to even make small changes themselves without you badgering. But having those moments to just share what's in someone in your heart, man, is so important in your relationship. And you know, some people don't get that opportunity. So to be vulnerable, be open like that, it's priceless. You know. All right, so we know relationship check-ins are tough. You know, they can be hard sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes they are. So what are some ways we can make sure that we don't take offense when we're having relationship check-ins? Because I think that's one of the biggest impediments sometimes to vulnerability is, you know, when people hear certain things concerned, or somebody voicing concerns or issues, they immediately feel attacked. They feel, you know, like, okay, this is someone just badgering me with all my wrongs and all that thing. So I think not being offended is going to be super important for you to be able to have this conversation. So how are some ways that we can, you know, try not to be offended and I guess mentally prepare ourselves?
The biggest thing is to remember that everyone is entitled to their own feelings. You can't dictate what somebody feels about something, and you could feel completely opposite, but that is that person's feeling, your partner's feelings, and allow them to have them. Allow them to have those feelings. You don't want to take it away, and if you really care about the relationship, you are going to want to do what it takes to work on it, hear the tough stuff. Nobody likes the hard conversations. Nobody likes to, you know, feel the pain of the tough stuff, but it's necessary in order to grow and get better.
It is. is, absolutely. So I think having a right frame of mind when you go into it is so important to not put yourself in a position where you feel like this is a come bash me session.
Right.
And the other person shouldn't feel like this is an opportunity for me to tell you what I've been wanting to say.
Right.
Because you have those things that happen, and that's not what it's for. It's an opportunity to just be kind of naked with each other, be very open and vulnerable with each other. Sometimes you can schedule check-ins where you don't address the issues, you just say them. You have a time where one person just says the thing that they want to say, another person just says the thing they want to say, and then you walk away. Just walk away and let each person process individually what was said. And you guys find a moment where you say, okay, I'm ready to come back, and now we can talk about the things that were said. Sometimes the presentation and then the exposition and the delving into can be separated. You don't have to do it all together. So if it's a better practice for you in your relationship, for you guys to have, time of sharing, and you talk about what things you want to say, and then step away, even if it's an hour later, 2 hours later, a day later. Don't go too far. I would say a day or two is probably the longest you want to go. But yeah, step away and then come back, regroup, and address it that way. You can do that with topic after topic. You can literally say, okay, we're going to present the issues with this thing. We're both going to just sit and listen, and then we're going to walk away. And when you walk away, you can say all the crazy stuff you want to say. You can do with everything in your heart and mind about it, whatever. But come back to the table with a plan and a intent to resolve. Okay, let me try to hear their heart, and let me try to look at it from their perspective, their standpoint, and empathize with their position on it, and see where we can meet in the middle to make sure that everyone gets what they need out of it.
Yeah, and I believe I've already said this, end with the positive.
Yeah.
You know, just even if a bunch of things that you didn't like came out, end with the positive. Make sure that person know that you love them and care for them, and that you're in it for the long haul and you're willing to work on whatever. Yeah.
I think that's important to come back after this all over and say, in spite of all of these things that we've said today, I still love you. I'm still committed to you. And we're going to figure out how to do this. You still make me smile. You still make me happy. I love when we do blah, blah, blah. I love when, we're blah, blah, blah this way. Starting to point out and highlight some of the great positive things that you have in your relationship. It's a great moment to do that. Absolutely. And it kind of helps mend the wounds a little. And, it'll help you guys be able to, after this is over, maybe even have some conversations throughout the day or whatever the case may be, instead of not feeling like you want to talk to each other at all, or all that stuff that comes with it. So
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, you guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope this is going to be helpful for someone out there in their relationship. Be sure to tune in right here on Love After Loss for each one of our weekly installments. And until next time, stay in love.